My mother didn't even hesitate when she said it across the dinner table. "You're not half the woman your sister is." The word struck so hard it felt like the room tilted beneath me. I pushed my chair back, every year of silence tightening in my chest, and said, "Then she can start paying your rent." Fork stopped midair. My father's face drained of color. "Rent? What rent?" he whispered, as if the truth might swallow him whole. But that shock, that silence, the fear in his eyes were nothing compared to what followed, because the real secret still hadn't surfaced. My name is Nora Ellis, and for most of my life I've been the quiet one in a family that never stops talking about my sister. People think I'm shy, but that's not quite right. I learned early that in my parents' house, silence kept the peace, and peace, no matter how fragile, was something I tried to protect. On paper, my life looked stable. I'm a financial manager at a logistics company near Portland Harbor. I deal in numbers, deadlines, and systems that make sense. There's a calm in spreadsheets that real life never gave me. My days follow predictable rhythms, forklifts echoing at the docks, the low hum of the office, the steady click of my keyboard. I go home to a small apartment lit by warm lamps with a view of the river. Some nights I make pasta, tie my hair back, and take comfort in small, orderly routines. But that steadiness ends every Friday. That's when I drive to my parents' two-story suburban house, wrapped in trimmed hedges and the illusion of a perfect family. Inside, that perfection fractures fast. The moment I walk in, I feel 16 again, the second daughter, the background character in Vivian's highlight reel. My sister has always been the star, tall, confident, the kind of person who fills a room and expects it to stay filled. She argued her way to trophies in high school, earned a law scholarship, and stepped into a career everyone praised before she'd even proven herself. And I, quiet and steady Nora, watched her take the spotlight as if it were her birthright. My parents adore her, always have. At every gathering, every holiday, every dinner, they lift her achievements like offerings. The cases she won, the promotions, the house, her plans, her trips, her limitless potential. And then there's me, Nora, who paid her own tuition at 17, who worked 2 jobs through college, who never asked for help because I learned not to. It wasn't that my parents disliked me, they just preferred the louder story. Still, I showed up every Friday because they insisted. My dad would say, "This family has a seat for you. Don't leave it empty," half joking, half serious. My mother called if I was even 5 minutes late. Family first, she'd remind me, though it often felt like Vivian first was closer to the truth. The dinners followed a script. The same roast chicken, the same questions from my father, the same victories shared by Vivian, while I pushed food around my plate pretending the quiet I carried didn't weigh so much. But the Friday before everything fell apart felt different. My mother kept giving me sharp, measuring looks. Vivian was unusually triumphant, like she knew something I didn't. Even my father's smile seemed stretched thin. I felt it then, a storm forming beneath the polite clatter of dishes. I just didn't know it would break over me first. That dinner began like all the others, but the air felt heavy. My mother lingered by the stove, stirring the same pot twice, her jaw tight. Vivian scrolled through her phone with a smug grin that felt practiced. My father kept clearing his throat the way he does when he's about to announce something. I'd lived through enough Fridays to recognize the signs, but I tried to ignore them. I set the table, aligned the silverware, pretended not to feel the tension pooling with every breath. When we sat down, the conversation turned, as always, to Vivian. "She's presenting at a conference next week," my mother said proudly. They asked her, "Isn't that impressive?" My father added, smiling like she was running for office. Vivian shrugged with fake modesty. "Well, they know talent when they see it." I chewed slowly, swallowing chicken and resentment together. I'd spent the entire day fixing a financial disaster at work, but that kind of effort never reached the dinner table. My achievements lived quietly in the corners of my parents' house, buried under bills and forgotten lists. I tried to speak up. "I led a major project this week," my director said, but my mother waved it off. "You're doing fine, Nora, but Vivian's work affects hundreds of people. It's different." The sting was small, sharp, deliberate, and it landed exactly where she intended. I looked down, focused on breathing. Just another Friday, I told myself, another night of swallowing words. Then my father leaned back with a heavy sigh. Speaking of houses, he said, Vivian helped us with some mortgage paperwork last month. She's been such a blessing. A chill ran up my spine. Mortgage paperwork? Blessing. Vivian's smile widened. It wasn't a big deal. My fork froze. 3 years of payments thudded behind my ribs, payments I'd made quietly, without praise or thanks, because they said they didn't want anyone worrying. I'd given up vacations, graduate courses, even saving for my own place. And now they were changing the narrative. Heat built in my chest, slow at first, then rising fast. I couldn't hold it in anymore. My mother must have sensed it because she gave me that look, the slight tilt of her head that always meant stay quiet. Then she said the sentence that cracked something open inside me. You're not half the woman your sister is. The room didn't just fall silent, it snapped. I sat up straighter, heard the scrape of chair legs on hardwood, felt every swallowed word gather in my throat like a storm demanding release. For the first time at that table, I didn't push it down. I let it come. She said it so casually, like a fact, like the weather, as if I should have accepted it years ago. Something steadied in me. I pushed my chair back, slow and deliberate, the sound slicing the air. Vivian's smile flickered. My father looked startled, as though he'd just noticed me. I met my mother's gaze, my voice calmer than my heart. Then she can start paying your rent. Silence crashed into the room. My father blinked. Rent? What rent? His voice broke, almost begging. I didn't waver. The mortgage payments. For 3 years. All 3 of them stared. Shock, denial, and something close to fear crossing their faces. And for the first time I felt light, like I had finally set down a burden no one else had ever seen. My mother recovered first. Nora, don't be dramatic. We never asked you. You did, I cut in, my voice steady. Every month. Just this once. We'll handle next month. Don't let the bank send a notice. I have the payments. I have the bills. I have everything. My father's face lost all color. You shouldn't bring that up now. It's not appropriate. There it was, the dismissal, the minimizing, the familiar attempt to shove the truth back into the shadows where they preferred me to stay. I stood fully, my hands gripping the back of my chair. What's inappropriate is pretending Vivian saved a house I paid to keep standing. Vivian finally spoke, her voice thin and strained. Nora, maybe you misheard. Maybe Mom didn't mean, but I wasn't listening anymore. I watched them scramble to reshape the story into something softer, something that protected them. And for the first time, I didn't shrink to fit it. Something inside me clicked, sharp, clean, irreversible. Without another word, I walked out of the dining room, grabbed my coat, and stepped into the cold Portland air. My breath shook, but not from regret. It was the shock of hearing myself stand after years of sitting down. That night, back in my apartment, I opened my laptop, found the automatic monthly payment, and clicked cancel. A small box popped up. Are you sure this time? Ending the payments should have felt like closure, but instead it cracked something open. For the first time in 3 years, my account didn't drain on the 15th. The silence from my parents was loud enough to rattle the walls. I started running along the river in the mornings, first just to calm the trembling in my hands. Soon, the rhythm of my feet against the pavement began to feel like freedom. I joined a Thursday cooking class at the community center, learned how to make fresh pasta, learned how to laugh with strangers who knew nothing about my family. I let friends pull me into weekend hikes around Mount Hood, where the air felt cleaner, untouched by expectations. With distance came clarity. Every just this month. Every don't tell anyone. Every time they praised Vivian, while I quietly paid the bills. Then came the photo. It arrived on a Sunday morning from Mrs. Jensen, my parents' elderly neighbor who noticed everything. She sent a picture of my childhood home with a banner stretched across the porch. Congratulations, Vivian, for preserving the family home. My body went completely still. Preserving Vivian. My throat tightened as I stared at the screen, my hands numb. Every late-night transfer, every sacrifice, every time I told myself family comes first, all of it rewritten as if I'd never existed. I didn't cry. Not this time. What I felt was sharper, steadier. I walked to the dining table, pulled out the folder holding every printed bill and payment from the past 3 years, and began sorting them by date, month by month. It looked less like paperwork and more like a quiet autobiography of sacrifice. That's when Sarah called. Nora, I think you should know, she whispered. Your parents are planning a family appreciation dinner next month in Seattle. They asked me to make the slideshow. I braced myself. Let me guess. It's about Vivian. It's worse, she said, her discomfort obvious. They want to present her as the reason the house was saved. They even gave me captions. Anchor of the family. Anchor. Savior. Hero. Words I had earned but never been given. Send me the file, I said. She hesitated. Are you sure? I'm very sure. When it arrived, I opened it and let out a hollow laugh. Vivian, standing proudly in front of the house. My parents hugging her on the porch. Captions, thanking her for keeping the family home safe. I made a copy and added what they erased. After the final slide, I inserted a timeline of payments, bar charts of monthly transfers, screenshots of messages from my mother, blurred for privacy but unmistakable in meaning. The last slide showed the house again, with the words, "The truth deserves a place too." I saved it everywhere, my laptop, the cloud, and a USB drive I kept in my bag like a pulse. Weeks passed. I moved into my new apartment in Seattle, bright and quiet, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline. I bought a light gray sofa, a small oak table, one tall bookshelf. For the first time, I lived in a space that was entirely mine. Then the invitation came. A message from my mother. Family appreciation dinner. Dressed nicely. No explanation. No apology. When the day arrived, I didn't go to impress them. I went to finish something. The restaurant downtown glowed with soft amber light. Through the glass, I saw familiar shapes, my parents, Vivian in an emerald dress, relatives I hadn't seen in years, everyone dressed like it was a ceremony. In a way, it was. I waited near the entrance as my father took the microphone. "We are here," he said proudly, "to honor our daughter Vivian, who stepped up during difficult times and helped us keep the family home." Applause filled the room. Smiles. Phones raised. The slideshow began. Vivian on the porch. Vivian holding documents. Vivian beside my mother. Caption after caption telling a story that wasn't true. Then the screen flickered. A bar chart appeared. Then another. Dates. Amounts. 3 years of payments laid out in unforgiving clarity. The room went silent. My parents froze. Vivian's mouth fell open. I stepped into the light. "If the truth makes anyone uncomfortable tonight," I said calmly, "that isn't my problem." Every head turned. My father stared at me like I was a ghost. My mother's face collapsed, not with shame but with fear of exposure. Vivian's eyes filled not with sorrow but with dread. I walked toward the screen. For 3 years I paid the mortgage, every month without fail. Quietly. While you, I said, looking at my parents, rewrote the story so it was easier to applaud. My father tried to interrupt. "Nora, take this outside." "Why?" I asked. "You wanted everyone to know what Vivian did. Why shouldn't they know what I did?" Whispers spread fast. I always wondered how they managed. She was always working late. 3 years. She paid all of it. Vivian stood shaking. "I didn't ask for this," she said weakly. "I didn't think you thought nothing," I replied, not crying, just stating the truth. "You enjoyed being the hero in a story that wasn't yours." My mother finally spoke. "Nora, we didn't want to embarrass you." I laughed softly. By telling the truth, the USB drive felt heavy in my pocket, but the screen had already done the work. I wasn't there to destroy them. I was there to be seen. "I don't want the house," I said. "I don't want praise. I just won't let you erase me." The room stayed silent as I turned away. My father reached out. "Nora, wait." But I didn't. I walked toward the door, lighter than I had felt in years. Outside, the cool Seattle night wrapped around me. I stood on the balcony steps, breathing in the sharp, crisp air, and felt something shift. This wasn't revenge. It was release. Inside, they could argue, cry, deny, it didn't matter. The truth had been spoken, and I had finally stepped out of the shadow they had kept me in. Once you step into your own light, there's no going back. 2 days after the dinner, I was watering a small plant on my balcony when someone knocked. Through the peephole, I saw my parents, standing close together, looking. Smaller than I'd ever seen them. My mother's eyes were swollen, my father's shoulders stiff, as if the cold Seattle air had etched new lines into them both. I opened the door without a word. They stepped inside slowly, scanning my apartment as though entering a life they had never imagined. Sunlight spilled across the floor-to-ceiling windows, catching the edges of my bookshelf, my new dining table, the quiet I had built myself. My mother spoke first. "Nora, we're sorry." Her voice cracked. "We were wrong. We shouldn't have let the story become something it wasn't. We shouldn't have asked you to carry so much alone." My father added, "We talked. We want your name on the house. You earned it." I let the word settle, not with bitterness, but with clarity. "I don't need it," I said. "I have a home now, my own." What I needed was respect and honesty, not a deed. They fell silent. My mother's hands trembled. My father stared at the floor, as if the truth had dragged him somewhere unfamiliar. "I'm not angry anymore," I said softly, "but I'm done disappearing. If we rebuild anything, it has to start from that." Something shifted in the room. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a space where we could breathe without old stories crushing us. When they left, the apartment felt even brighter. I walked back to the balcony, looking out over the skyline, realizing I had crossed a line there was no returning from. For the first time, the future felt entirely mine. I stayed on that balcony long after the door closed behind my parents, watching the Seattle lights blink against the night. For years, I thought keeping the peace meant staying quiet. But silence doesn't protect you. Silence erases you. Choosing myself didn't break my family. It broke the story that had kept me small. And maybe that's the real beginning. If you've ever carried a burden in silence, or been written out of your own story, share it in the comments. I read every single one. And if this chapter resonated with you, hit subscribe. More stories are coming. Stories about finding your voice, standing your ground, and rewriting what family truly means to us smaller than I'd ever seen them. My mother's eyes were swollen, my father's shoulders stiff, as if the cold Seattle air had etched new lines into them both. I opened the door without a word. They stepped inside slowly, scanning my apartment as though entering a life they had never imagined. Sunlight spilled across the floor-to-ceiling windows, catching the edges of my bookshelf, my new dining table, the quiet I had built myself. My mother spoke first. "Nora, we're sorry." Her voice cracked. "We were wrong. We shouldn't have let the story become something it wasn't. We shouldn't have asked you to carry so much alone." My father added, "We talked. We want your name on the house. You earned it." I let the word settle, not with bitterness, but with clarity. "I don't need it," I said. "I have a home now, my own." What I needed was respect and honesty, not a deed. They fell silent. My mother's hands trembled. My father stared at the floor, as if the truth had dragged him somewhere unfamiliar. "I'm not angry anymore," I said softly, "but I'm done disappearing. If we rebuild anything, it has to start from that." Something shifted in the room. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a space where we could breathe without old stories crushing us. When they left, the apartment felt even brighter. I walked back to the balcony, looking out over the skyline, realizing I had crossed a line there was no returning from. For the first time, the future felt entirely mine. I stayed on that balcony long after the door closed behind my parents, watching the Seattle lights blink against the night. For years, I thought keeping the peace meant staying quiet. But silence doesn't protect you. Silence erases you. Choosing myself didn't break my family. It broke the story that had kept me small. And maybe that's the real beginning. If you've ever carried a burden in silence, or been written out of your own story, share it in the comments. I read every single one. And if this chapter resonated with you, hit subscribe. More stories are coming. Stories about finding your voice, standing your ground, and rewriting what family truly means.